Hey, good Tuesday morning, folks. I'm MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa with the MLive Morning Weather Update. Lots going on in weather here across the Midwest and the Great Lakes and Michigan, except for a large-scale snowstorm, but bitterly cold air on the way, and I teased you a little bit. We're going to just have some fun. You know, when we get into these long periods of different weather, a lot of folks want to know, how long is this going to last? So we'll look at the actual European model in its 45-day output, which takes us out to the end of February. So here we go. First and foremost, we do have some lake effect, and it's fairly intense. It's problematic because it crosses over some of these major interstates and brings the visibility down quickly and changes the road conditions quickly. So you know what that means. The other people, the people that don't know what the heck they're doing, get out there and cause some issues. So be careful there. This band of lake effect now starting to stretch across through Charlotte and through south of Lansing, and eventually we'll make it over into the Ann Arbor area and Detroit, where there's a winter weather advisory in effect for 1 to 3 inches of snow. So here you can see the snow starting to work its way across the southern part of the state. This is lake effect, remember. So it stays in the southwest while it stretches out to the southeast, and then by early afternoon it all shifts south in the eastern part of the state. You can see that here on the radar forecast, and we'll go through to noontime or so. And this model actually bends the winds to the northwest and shifts the band of snow pretty quickly. Noontime, Detroit, Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, I-94, 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock down into northern Ohio and Indiana. So that's why the winter weather advisory runs through 2 o'clock in the east, and then it runs through 1 a.m. in the west. So what happens then as we get to the evening hours, the lake effect becomes more common out on the far western side of the state. And then as we go through tonight, the lake effect winds down, and by tomorrow, it's a dry day. Tomorrow won't have any precipitation really falling in most places, maybe a little bit isolated. By the way, Petoskey's had about a foot of snow in the last, let's call it 24 hours. So here's your snowfall today. I would call it an inch or so in the Detroit area. It's more just problematic that it sneaks up on I-94, where half the driver's IQ goes down 50 points, if that's possible, once they enter the interstate. And the southwest corner, so let's just run it through until the snow comes to an end. And you can see southwest corner, southwest of Grand Rapids, Holland, Allegan, Kalamazoo, 3 to 6 inches of snow, 1 to 3 in the far southern part of lower Michigan, especially along the border. Traverse City area, Manistee area, Charlevoix, Petoskey, 3 to 6, and parts of the UP, another 3 to 6 inches of snow. All right, then we switch gears. Good morning, John Robert Williams and Carrie Draper and Doug LaRoe. Good morning. Thanks for watching the MLive Morning Weather Update. And Cheryl Houston, good. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we get to see the old friend, the polar vortex, drop down, right? So we're going to look at the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and we have some Arctic air on the way. So you'll see the polar vortex drop down and stick around for a while, and then we kind of gradually back into a southwesterly flow. And if we're on the south side of that, or on the north side, the cold side of the southwesterly flow, things will get interesting at some point. I know some of you snowmobilers have been waiting for a big statewide snow. It's coming. So here we are. And you can see as we go into the Thursday, Friday period, we warm up a touch, but there's the polar vortex coming down. This is Monday, and that's Tuesday. A lobe of it comes down, and then maybe another lobe late next week. And then we start to see a little bit of a realignment. I wouldn't call it a warmer pattern, but I would call it a southwesterly flow. You see that flow out there in the southwest. Those are the kind of storms that bring us wallopings if we're on the cold side. Here's a little bit more verbatim of a look. So here's our lake effect breaking down tomorrow. Thursday looks like a light snow, 1 to 2 inches, most spots less than an inch. Friday into a stiff southwesterly flow, and yes, that's the freezing line. So we make it to 35-ish in a lot of places on Friday. Saturday morning, a watch out for the far southeast corner of the state. I do have my work cut out for me, don't I? The Arctic front is through, and then in pours the Arctic air Monday and Tuesday. Of course, that means lake effect. Sometimes this Arctic air can become so dry that the lake effect really isn't as heavy as what you'd think it'd be for the colder air. And next week it's just all snow, 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 and more snow. So we got a solid month of winter coming up here, folks. Here's your 24-hour snowfall. That's today's, just to show you what we got in store for Thursday. Not much, 1 or 2 inches along the Lake Michigan shoreline. Elsewhere across lower Michigan, looking at less than an inch. Hey, good morning, Monica Hadley. Hopefully you're doing well. Nicole Goodwin, good morning. Thanks for watching. And Sandar, good morning. All right, now you may not like this. We're going to start with the low temperatures first off. These are low temperature forecasts. All right, so tomorrow morning we're in the teens, and Thursday morning with the clouds approaching, northwest lower stays a little milder, southeast lower turns pretty cold. Friday morning, starting off in the 20s. Saturday morning in the 20s. Sunday morning, the Arctic air is invading, and by Monday morning, we should be below zero in many spots by a few degrees, maybe a couple of degrees along the shoreline just above zero. Oh, thank you. I just had breakfast delivered from my wife. I may have to cut this short because look what just showed up at my desk. Scrambled eggs with mushrooms and, of course, sriracha, hot sauce. All right, now I can't concentrate. Great wife. I love my wife. When she's home not working, she fixes me breakfast days she doesn't have to work. So here we go. Let's get back to the weather. So Monday morning below zero. Tuesday morning probably the coldest morning. 5-10 degrees below zero most everywhere. Wednesday morning still below zero or just above zero in a lot of spaces. And signs that as we get to the following weekend and the early week, we could go below zero again. Again, this is a typical, back to what we would call a typical Michigan winter, where each cold air mass is a little colder than the next, into about, let's say, centered on February 1st. Maybe the first week in February is when it bottoms out. Oh, yeah, Scott. Yeah, there are onions in there also, I do believe. And then as we typically get to the second week of February, the Arctic air masses can still be very Arctic, but they tend to let up just a touch. Tend to, unless you get the Great Lakes freezing over, then they still have an easy time coming down for a couple of more weeks after that. Linda Bromberg, does she deliver? Yes, to me in my office. Lauren Tiffany, we're going to look at how does February look here in just a moment. Okay, high temperatures. So Thursday we get to the low 30s. Friday, that's our day to get the icy stuff off the driveway, the sidewalk, the roads. Saturday. Sunday highs in the teens, Monday highs in the single digits, and Tuesday highs in the single digits as well. All right, so now we get to have a little bit of fun. We pretty much know what January is going to be. We're going to be cold. We don't see any widespread blizzard-type snowstorm for the next 7 to 10 days. I think we're pretty accurate, and not much really sneaks in surprise within 7 days. Not much. It could be. Hey, morning, Sarah Maltman. And Andre Pino. Good morning to you. Hello. But what happens in February? Do we get a flip-flop, or does the cold air continue? One of the best long-range forecasting principles, really lame, is persistence. So if you build a cold pattern, it tends to stay cold until it changes. That's kind of obvious, right? But what it says is that January, as we get cold, the lakes get colder, the snow covers there, snow covers in the upper Midwest, Canada. It will perpetuate the cold still coming down until the sun gains power, and that really doesn't happen until late February or really March. So let's show you the European model in its 45-day output. And what you're looking at here is you're looking at the temperature anomaly, so how far above or below it is from normal. I love it. I love it how people, it's not really set up for this, and it's probably kind of weird, but people try to do hookups on the MLive morning weather feed. Hey, what you doing? Hey, you look good. Boy. So we're in January. We're into January 24th and 25th and 26th. We're still running colder than normal. January 28th, we're running colder than normal, but note the intensity of the Arctic air mass may be fading some. This would be 5 to 10 degrees colder than normal. That's still cold. That's highs in the 20s and lows in the single digits and teens. We're at February 4th. We're staying blue. We're looking for orange if you want to start dreaming of spring or a melt-off. We're February 7th. We're still blue. We're at February 10th. We're blue. We're at February 13th, we're blue. We're, 10 degrees colder than normal there. And we start to take this with a grain of salt or look at the trend. But what the point is, we're February 22nd, we're 23rd, we're February 27th. And what the European model says is we are going to have a cold February as well. I'd probably agree. Based on the fact that the momentum is building cold and just the general knowledge that the cold has strength until at least the first or second week of February, I would probably agree. And I still believe there is a snowstorm, maybe 2, maybe 3, in that type of pattern. There's plenty of storms out in the Pacific, and we're on the cold side. Again, not rocket science. It should happen at some point for snowmobilers and snowstorm fans, let's just say. Hey, thanks for joining me on the MLive Morning Weather Update. Prepare for some, good old-fashioned Michigan cold next week. Take your precautions. If you got some pipes that can freeze or something like that, get your stuff all ready. And remember, snow and cold always melt at some point. I'm MLive Chief Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa. Thanks for joining me on the MLive Morning Weather Update. I gotta go. You know why. Bye.